Hello and welcome back to Floras and Auras. I'm Ashlyn, and today I'd like to focus on the idea of inertia and kind of tease out what it means to be stagnant, human progression, and our ultimate journey through this realm and what that looks like. I feel like upon discovering a few quotes, I've really been giving it some thought, and it's amazing how so much of our movement, whether that be physical, emotional, spiritual, is progressed in the mind. And I'm sure we've all heard the phrase mind over matter before, which is this idea that it starts here, and when we can really internalize what we want to manifest and actually put out into the world, and whether that be something we do, something we make, create, speak, or attract, it's amazing that this involves the plan starting with the self and this commitment, this intentionality. And I know for me, so much of my life has felt like these two worlds. You have your inner world where all these thoughts and ideas are happening, especially as somebody who is an artist, a creative. And then there's the external, which is execution and people seeing the things that you're writing. I recently had a moment where I had something in my sketchbook and the self-consciousness in me didn't want to share. And I think we've all had moments like this where we think it's easier because we, as humans, we go for what's easy, what we know, the certainty. And so change, or doing something out of that box, that paradigm that we assign to ourselves and kind of try to sit in comfortably, when we go outside of that, when we share our idea instead of keeping it in, when we can step out on a limb, that is where progress is made. I was recently listening to a super inspiring talk by one of my professors, and she mentioned how for her, going on international residencies has been such a game changer in terms of her own art practice and just like changing perspectives. And sometimes we actually need that physical departure from our comfort zone, our house, our couch, our day-to-day monotony. We need to depart from that in order to discover the novelty. And that is where progress is made. That is where we are furthering ourselves. And I think when I think about the concept of inertia and this kind of stagnancy, I think, and a huge theme with this show, if you've been watching, is love over fear. And with inertia, I do believe that a certain aspect of us staying stagnant and in one place is fear. What are we scared of? What would it mean to book that flight, go out for coffee with that friend, submit that poem, that art piece, go to that show, enroll in that course? What would it mean to do that? And why is it easier to fester in that kind of should've, could've, would've, grass is greener on the other side? Why do we feel the need to do the should've, could've, would'ves? Why does it have to be so idealistic rather than practical? And even as I sit with that, I think about how in my own life I have a tendency to change something and then for a while get really comfortable with it. And there's a really large part of my spirit that craves that novelty, that freshness, that newness. And at the same time, it's scary. It's really scary to think about the ground beneath you not being everything you thought it was. And I recently heard a podcast with Michelle Obama, And when asked kind of like what is one of the most challenging things for her being the president's wife, Barack Obama's wife, she said, you almost know too much. And it's the knowing that is a hindrance. It's the knowing that keeps us stagnant. It's the knowing that keeps us choosing fear over love, fear over newness, over experience, over connection, over progression. And it really is that fear. And so when we can adapt a mantra like nothing changes if nothing changes, and if you're not changing, you're choosing. These are two things I have one of those written on my mirror because it's really true. We think we are stuck with the choices we are making day in and day out, but the truth is the next thing that you are consciously choosing, you are choosing, and you could be changing it. And if you need to change it, knowing that it's a choice, and choice implies this idea of free will, and free will means we have agency, and agency means we have full ownership over everything that we do in this life, in this world, in this day, in this breath. And so how can we move out of that kind of gutter of not moving, and how can we progress in a direction of our dreams? There is a beautiful Buddhist emblem, and in Sanskrit it's called the Analom, and it has so many loops and swirls, and it's very curvy. And why is it like this? Because the journey in life is not linear. Most people think it needs to look like this, that these ones mean you failed, that these ones mean you're not getting anywhere. And the truth is you need the peaks, the valleys, the in-between spaces, but you just need to see the whole picture. And so sometimes that looks like zooming out. It's not a bad day. It's not a bad life. It could just be a bad day. It's not that you're a horrible person. Maybe just things aren't looking as bright and chipper as you picture them to be. And when you can really see that from a holistic perspective, try to see it in all angles. And when you need to, when you're feeling that sense of inertia, honor it, question why, recognize it, and see where it leads you. See if you can flip it upside down, spin it around on an axis, and give it a new set of eyes, because we are only here for such a finite amount of time, and I really do believe in possibilities. So I encourage you to sit with this idea of inertia and see how you can move forward in your day and really employ this, because I think we are all energy, we are all light beings, and the more that we can consciously show up in a place of love over fear, the more we can connect, inspire, be inspired. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for tuning in this week, and I send you all of my love, all of my light, and hope that you are able to take this into practice.